I would like to start this with a short introduction. As I said, my name is Nina. I came to Canada from Switzerland 7.5 years ago. I finished my studies at the University of Zurich in political science with the focus on international relations, and then moved to Canada in 2016. I joined first the Swiss-Canadian Chamber of Commerce here in Vancouver, and then I worked at the Consulate for about 5 years. I was the predecessor of Tamara. As the Science and Tech Officer, I got the opportunity to work on a diverse set of diverse portfolio. My focus was really on science and arts, which was the first topic of the first edition of the Swiss Innovation Fest, and then Cleantech, of course, and the exchange between the two countries. So Cleantech, over the years, I got to learn a lot about Cleantech in Switzerland. Now I'm here in Foresight, where I specialize on water technology and international relations. So water technology really in the context of British Columbia, and then our international work as Foresight as a whole. And then I would also like to acknowledge, before we get started properly and dive into the topic, with gratitude and respect, that the lands on which Foresight operates are the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And I join you today from the traditional lands of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We call it Vancouver. Foresight is Canada's largest clean tech innovation and adoption accelerator. Here you can see a few numbers. Our inception was about 10 years ago, and in those 10 years, we got the chance to work with a high number of Canadian clean tech companies, private capital partners, community members, and executive residents, mentors, and created quite a national impact. So we really strongly believe that Canada has an opportunity to become a leader in the global transition to a green economy. And that's why at Foresight, and that's the next slide, our big audacious goal is for Canada to be the first G7 country to reach net zero. So the government of Canada committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. And we take it a step further, and we really want Canada to become the first G7 country to reach that goal. It is an audacious goal right now. I think we are on 7th, so there's still a lot of work to do. But we're optimistic that we can move the country forward. We really want to reach this goal by accelerating clean tech innovation and drive the adoption of climate solutions. So how do we get there? We really want to tap into the extensive network that we've built over the past couple of years, foster collaboration, break down silos within industries, but also across industries and different stakeholder groups, and deliver action-oriented support that accelerates Canada's clean technology ecosystem. We focus on 4 pillars. The first one is venture acceleration. So we really walk ventures through all the stages of acceleration, creating business plan, establishing the company, export, investor readiness, CEO training, CFO training, all the stages that are needed through that acceleration process. Then we support those companies with the adoption of acceleration, to really building capacity to tackle the sustainability and decarbonization goals of industries, municipalities, utilities, communities. And the third pillar that we have is really ecosystem building, and that goes a bit hand in hand with adoption and acceleration. We really want to build a network where stakeholders, right holders, partners come together and adopt solutions, and create ecosystems within Canada and within provinces where the adoption of new solutions is really fostered. And the last one is knowledge sharing. So we have a research team that works closely with industry to develop market research, feasibility studies, life cycle assessments, and really share tool and resources and databases that make this complex market a bit more approachable. And I'll get back to almost all of these points during my presentation again. Canada in numbers. I would like to give you a bit of a context on the country we're looking at here and the market you're interested in potentially entering. So Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. The territories are in the north, that's the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. Canada is the second largest country in the world if you count the water surface as well. And without the water surface, I think we're the fourth largest country. Compared to its size, Canada doesn't have a large population. There is about 40 million inhabitants that really live close to the US border. It's really that narrow stretch above the border where most people live in the 4 largest cities, the capital, which is Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. 1.8 million people identify themselves as Indigenous people, and that's a number that has continuously grown over the past years. Canada has the world's longest coastline, so there are 3 oceans, the Atlantic in the east, the Pacific in the west, and the Arctic Ocean in the north. But Canada not only has a lot of ocean water, but also a lot of fresh water. There are about 2 million lakes, and it's the world's largest freshwater reserve. So there's about almost 9% of Canada's area is covered by freshwater. In comparison, I think Switzerland is considered the freshwater reservoir of Europe and has about 6% of Europe's supply of freshwater. Canada has a lot of water. Canada also has a lot of trees. About 367 million hectares of forest are in Canada. That's about 88 times the size of Switzerland, just to put that in comparison. It's a big country, and therefore there's a lot of geographic weather resources difference between the different provinces. So I would like to zoom in a bit into the provinces and give you an overview of what the different provinces are focusing on. Atlantic Canada in the east is really where the marine industries play an important role, aquaculture, transportation, but also natural resources such as oil and gas exploration. In Ontario, the biggest province of the country, the focus is really on manufacturing. Big international companies set up their companies, their plants there. One of them is, for example, Volkswagen, who recently announced a battery plant in Ontario. It's also a trade place, with Toronto being a fairly international and trade-focused city. And then, of course, the information and technology. The neighboring province, Quebec, is focusing on artificial intelligence. It's really a hub around AI, especially the city of Montreal. The prairies, those are the provinces Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are very much focused on natural resources. Especially Alberta has a focus on natural resources, oil and gas, and the energy production. And then Manitoba and Saskatchewan are strong in agriculture and the protein industry. British Columbia is the digital hub of the country. Digital technology is very strong here, and over the past years, really a startup and entrepreneurship hub was developed in the province. And then also the more traditional industries such as forestry, fishing, and mining. And in the north, the northern territories are very much focused on natural resources and mining. And along those sectors, the Canadian government actually developed so-called global innovation clusters. So there's 5 clusters where the government invests quite a lot of money into innovation and research. And those clusters are digital technology in BC, protein industries in the prairies, advanced manufacturing in Ontario, scale AI in Quebec, and then ocean in the Atlantic Canada. So it very well aligns with the sector strength I just mentioned. So Canada and Switzerland, you might have heard it already a bit. There are some overlaps or areas of shared interest. I would like to dive into that a bit more. The first one is energy production. And there, Switzerland and Canada really have a strong focus on water. So in Switzerland, water is the biggest energy source, and it accounts for about 56% of the total electricity production. So compared to other countries such as Germany or France, Switzerland really comes out of the top when it comes to that energy source. Canada, on the other hand, is the second largest producer of hydroelectricity in the world. And hydroelectricity accounts for about 60% of the country's electricity support. So you can see the numbers here are very similar. And then the next point, it's a bit in the energy field, but energy and waste. For Switzerland, the second largest renewable source of electricity after water is domestic waste, which now generates about 3% of Switzerland's electricity. In Canada, we're not there yet. So waste to energy is still, and maybe that's the first flag, it's still a good sector to develop. However, Vancouver has quite some put some priority into the waste to energy. There is a facility that opened in the 80s and that currently handles about a quarter of the region's garbage and produces energy out of that. So I thought that was an interesting fact. Then when it comes to carbon capture, utilization and storage, I will dive into that topic a bit more later. But both countries have quite strong ventures that came out of their academic institutions. In Switzerland, it's Climeworks, the ETH spin-off startup. And in Canada, it's Carbon Engineering and Swante. And I was actually very excited a few weeks ago to read that Climeworks has partnered with Swante. Swante is a BC company, and they have signed a collaboration and supply agreement to further advance direct air capture solutions at commercial scale. So the two companies agreed to jointly plan the supply of Swante's contractor blocks for 3 large Climeworks projects in Louisiana, California, and North Dakota. So we'll get into that a bit more, but there is collaboration already happening between the two countries. The next one is agriculture, and this is also, and we will dive into agriculture a bit more as well. But agriculture is a tremendous important sector in Switzerland, and so it is in Canada. So I'm happy to dive a bit more into that later on. And then the last one is transportation and mobility. And Switzerland is a global leader when it comes to transportation and mobility. I think we are all aware of that. Canada probably doesn't come to mind first when it comes to transportation leadership. But when we zoom into the cities, for example, Vancouver is very strong when it comes to its public transit system. It's the fourth, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 4th or 5th busiest in North America, and it's very well developed and is a tremendous partner of the city when it comes to the future of mobility. And another component is a shared mobility, where Switzerland actually had quite some impact on the shared mobility development in Vancouver. We're going back to a bit to Foresight, and at Foresight we are Cleantech focused and sector agnostic. And Thomas introduced that in the beginning. Our next networks, those are national networks where we really focus on ecosystem building and the development and adoption of clean tech solutions in particular sectors. And you can see here, those are our 6 focus sectors: agriculture, bioeconomy, built environment, carbon management, power, and water. You can see our big audacious goal is written under it. I'm not going to go into details in all of them, but they are very well aligned with the Canadian guidelines. And yeah, so those are the sectors we're working in. I would like to focus on 3 of those: agriculture, carbon management, and water management. I think I've looked a bit at the list of people who are joining today and also the priorities of the 2 countries. And I think those 3 can add a bit to the conversation and also to the next steps of this series. So, snapshot on agriculture in Canada. And I mentioned it before, agriculture is really an important industry in Canada. More than 2 million people are employed in the agriculture and agri-food sector. That means one in 9 jobs is in this sector, and it generates around 7% of Canada's GDP. Canada is the 5th largest exporter of agri-food and seafood in the world. And so you can see there's a lot happening. There's a lot of agriculture. A lot of land in Canada is agricultural land. But with that, also a lot of challenges come. So decarbonization, sustainability is a major conversation in the agri-space and the agri-food technology. And here I listed 5 value chains that offer really national opportunity and also for international companies. So that's production inputs, irrigation and water management, field agriculture technologies, controlled environment agriculture, and precision agriculture technologies. And I would like to highlight that especially field agriculture technology and controlled environment agriculture are 2 of the strongest sectors or strongest innovation chains in Canada. Companies were found to be highly concentrated in Canada's 4 largest provinces: Ontario, BC, Alberta, and Quebec. I would like to walk you through a few case studies. I will do that throughout those snapshots, just to give you an idea of what companies we have here and what opportunities. And I think then it ties well into Paul's presentation later, where we focus a bit more on pitching and what did those companies do right that you can do as well. And what can you learn from those? So the first one is Lucent Bioscience. They are an alumni of our program, one of our most successful, and it's an agtech company who creates proprietary technology to create carbon neutral and non-polluting fertilizers that actually regenerate the land. The company was founded in 2014 in an effort really to reinvent plant nutrition delivery. And they produce a sustainable, non-polluting, climate-positive micronutrient fertilizer. They upcycle it through pea, lentil, and oat hulls. And their product improves the health of soil and also increases the revenue for farmers and food processors. And what they do very well is building relationships. Well, they also do very well in funding. As you can see, they raised 4.2 million from private funding. And they do great relationship building. So, for example, they work with one of the Canadian superclusters that I mentioned before, with the one focused on protein industries. So they really partner with a local network or ecosystem to be able to work with farmers and with the industry and the agriculture. They not only do that good on a national level, but also an international level. So they expanded quite a bit. The company is 10 years old. The expansion really happened recently. They announced there's the strategic expansion into the US, the European Union, and Brazil. And I think there's a good learning to use momentum in certain regions and certain countries. Lucent Bioscience recently came up with a new seed coating that is microplastic free. The EU just decided on a microplastic ban. So the timing to enter a new market here is very, very well done. Just to share a few learnings from them. Canada is really a first mover and a leader in the global carbon management sector. And Canada has a lot of key ingredients to build a successful CCUS sector, including project expertise, a strong climate policies and supportive fiscal framework, and a very well-developed regulatory framework. And so the country really took a leadership role and is outperforming on patents and emerging startups. You can see here a few numbers. 5 out of 30 international CCUS projects are located in Canada. Quite a few of those have been announced recently. 74 are in development compared to 850 globally. So Canada really plays an important role here. And I mentioned the regulatory framework that is very strong. Canada has a carbon management strategy with 5 federal priorities. You can see them here, really accelerating innovation and R&D. I think that's interesting for this conversation. Advancing policies and regulations, attracting investment and trade opportunities, scaling up projects and infrastructure, and building partnerships and a growing inclusive workforce. And I think there's lots of opportunities with Canada being a big country in resource extraction, oil and gas, and mining. So it really creates a lot of opportunities. We recently, over the past couple of months, we developed a venture to value chain report. I will talk a bit more about that later. But based on this report, our data and analysis really indicates that Canada has 56 pure play carbon tech companies compared to 699 globally. So 8%. What are pure play carbon tech companies? Yeah, that's a good question. Pure play carbon tech companies are, pure play really means the focus of the company is mainly on the innovation and on carbon tech. There are companies who might focus on carbon management and have CCUS components to their company, but it's not the reason they set up the company, or it's not the main priority. So that's the distinction. Thank you for the question. Alberta has the most carbon tech companies in Canada. That's probably, as I said, because it's strong on natural resources, mining, oil and gas. Ontario has some clustering of conversion companies. And this is an opportunity for the group. There's a small number of measurement, monitoring, and verification technologies in Canada, but there is an opportunity for innovators because this is really an integral part of Canada's strategy. Arca Climate, we recently at Foresight, we chose them to be the startup of the year because we see there's a lot of potential for Arca. It's an actively growing and already creating quite an impact. So who is Arca? Arca, they remove excess CO2 from the atmosphere and transform it into rocks. So Arca's air to rock carbon mineralization solutions have the potential to capture and permanently store atmospheric carbon dioxide from nickel mine tailings. So that's around the mining sector again, and removing over a gigaton of CO2 per year for the next 30 years. So they did something very, very smart. They really focus on an industry where there's a lot of opportunity. So the mining industry in Canada is one of the major sectors, and but also a sector that faces quite some regulation changes and a lot of decarbonization pushes or challenges. And Arca Climate recently got an opportunity with BHG Group. So they're testing their system for carbon dioxide removal at a nickel mine in Australia. So they're launching a pilot project to decarbonize processing of critical mineral. And yeah, I think it's quite an interesting company. Happy to share more, but just this as an example of a company in the carbon space. Canada is recognized globally for its expertise in water technology, and I'm sure that is the reason for that is because there is a lot of water in Canada. It sometimes influences the narrative around water a bit, because in Canada there's the impression that we have enough water, and while there is a lot of water, there's also a lot of water challenges, and that's why over the years a lot of water technology and ocean technology companies developed. So Canada has about 2,000 Canadian cleantech companies, and out of those 525 belong to the water sector. I think that I found that a quite impressive number. A bit more than 100 are based here in British Columbia. In Vancouver, we have quite a few water technology companies, and in Victoria, there's a lot of ocean technology. There are the largest concentration is in industrial water treatment, because Canada has a lot of industry, potable water treatment, and wastewater treatment. And to share with the group, Canada has a well-developed ecosystem of smart water technology, but there's a lot of room to grow still, especially technologies that impact climate mitigation and adaptation. We also created a venture to value chains report on the water sector, and we noted quite a few points and opportunities that are relevant to know for ventures looking to enter the Canadian market. You can see there is a notable clustering of environmental monitoring and management technologies in the Atlantic provinces, so in the east. Then if you're looking at resource recovery, for example, lithium, getting lithium out of water, this is an area of strength in British Columbia. And then what's of interest to you, really expanding circular water technology application is an opportunity for Canada to reduce water-related emissions and address climate risks. So I think there's still a lot of opportunity in that market, and a lot of strong smart water applications we can bring to the market. And here I would like to introduce you to 2S Water Incorporated. And they are, as I mentioned, water technology is strong water innovation. And there are some great examples where historically we punched above our weight in terms of the global impact, and 2S Water is one of them. They grown its team by 2.5 full-time employees. It's a new word I learned as well. FTEs is full-time employees, and raised more than 1.3 million in investment, most recently from the water VC Burnt Island Venture. And 2S Water, as you can see here, they really focus on sensor that detects and quantifies metal in water, and they optimize water treatment processes and improve environmental compliances of industrial and municipal water treatment facilities. And you can see here, I mentioned resource recovery in British Columbia is quite a strong sector, and we have quite a few companies that work in that field, and but there's still a lot of opportunity again. So I gave you a snapshot of Canada and the sectors, the provinces, where we see strength at Foresight, where the Canadian government puts their focus as well. And I just want to mention 2 more things. I know because we're talking to an international audience, we are part of a global network. It's called International Cleantech Network, ICN. You see the logos of all the clusters that are part of it. Switzerland is also part of it. Now I'm like, it's there. Cleantech Alps is the Swiss partner that's also part of this network. So through this collaboration with international partners, we really try to foster the international exchange. For Foresight, we continue to working on how can we collaborate with international partners, how can we support startups. So I just wanted to leave that here, that you know as well that there is international collaboration happening. And the last note I want to give you, and that's the next slide, is the venture to value chains. This is an initiative that we launched recently. It's to leverage data from technology companies and other key stakeholders to map, categorize, and analyze strategically the important industry value chains for Canada in the clean economy. I'm happy to share the link in the chat, because these reports, there's an executive summary that's accessible to everyone, the report, and I think there's quite some interesting information if you're interested in the Canadian market. And with that, we come to an end. It's 10:45. We have 15 minutes left for questions. And here is my contact information if you want to know more. If you have further questions about the Canadian Cleantech market, about Foresight, if I can't answer the question, I'm happy to delegate you to our team, to the right person. And with that, I would also like to, I didn't get the chance to thank the Swiss Consulate in the beginning because of my tech struggles. So I want to really thank Tamara for organizing the second edition of the Swiss Innovation Fest. It's very exciting to see how it developed. It's great to see that Cleantech is a focus of this year's edition. I think there's a lot of opportunities between Switzerland and Canada in that space. And so thank you, Tamara, and also thank you, Thomas, for supporting this initiative and be part of it and giving it a platform. And of course, Scott as well from ISM. Thank you for all of you to put this together and let me be part of it. I'm really excited that I could give this presentation. I hope it was beneficial for you. And now I'm going to be quiet and answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.